So without further ado, we'll jump into practice. So go ahead and find a relaxed yet alert posture. If you want to close your eyes or leave them half open or fully open, either's really fine. Just in the spirit of the practice we've done so far, just doing a quick check-in with yourself. This could be in the form of a body scan, just checking in with the feeling world from the feet to the head, back down to the feet. If already you're noticing something is arising for you, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, you could just meet it as we've been doing in these first 3 weeks, just meeting it with the kindness of non-judgment without trying to get rid of it, change it, make it better. Just being with our circumstances in the feeling world can be such a key doorway towards a deeper compassion, a deeper way of living from compassion. We'll just spend a couple minutes doing that on our own. So here, kindness takes the form of non-judgment towards our experience, especially if we're experiencing something unpleasant, or just in a neutral state of being, or perhaps something pleasant is arising for us, just being with that. Compassion is always at the ready to meet our life and experience, to meet each situation as it is. So allowing that. Allowing things to be, allowing things to arise if they want to arise. If they don't want to, that's okay. Just be with the feeling world. Be with sensation in the feet, weight of the body in the seat. So of course, we're simultaneously gathering ourselves into this moment. But this moment is also about meeting what's arising. So just as we did in last week's practice, just being open to that which moves through awareness, that which moves through our present moment mindfulness. There's a sense of welcoming. There's a sense of allowing. The more we do this, the more confidence we gain, the less we have to fear our internal world. Having confidence in being able to allow our emotions, thoughts, etc. It's one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. It's one of the most compassionate gifts, actually. But of course, for most of us, this takes work. This doesn't come easily. So the work just means putting time into practicing it. So from here, we're going to shift into our main practice today, which is going to be on the 4 boundless states. These 4 boundless states are boundless equanimity, boundless loving kindness, boundless compassion, and boundless joy. The 4 boundless states are one of the most powerful mind trainings we can employ in our daily practice. So I thought to lead guided meditation on them, that you can fit all 4 into a short period of time. And when we're training the mind, it's all about repetition. Repeat these kinds of practices daily at best. If not, we repeat them as much as we can. So to start, we're going to work with equanimity, which is the root for boundless love, for boundless compassion to be trained in, to be evoked. We'll talk a little bit about equanimity. We'll talk more about it later. But for now, I want you to arouse 3 kinds of figures. Take your time with each one. First figure is going to be someone or something like a pet that you feel a fondness towards, sense of closeness, warmth. Doesn't have to be that you always feel that way towards them, but generally you have a sense of fondness, closeness. It's easy to arouse warmth towards them. Bring this person to mind and invite them to sit in front of you and off to the left a little bit. To enhance this, I usually like to imagine them, wearing certain clothes or in a certain stage of life where there's a moment I remember having a lot of warmth and love towards them. So it doesn't have to be in their current form. This could also be someone who's not alive, obviously. So you imagine them in that state that is loving, that it's easy to arouse warmth and love towards them. The next figure, which will sit directly in front of us, a few feet away, is someone we have difficulty with. So this is a rich one, and actually, as we're training the mind, we can change out these figures and we can invite, increasing levels of difficulty. But for now, if you're new to this practice, I just recommend, someone you had an altercation with, but it's not someone, you absolutely abhor or can't stand looking at. Eventually you can work with someone like that, but don't bring that person in right now. Just someone, who's a little bit rude to you or cut you off in traffic or, someone you're having a difficulty with. And of course, this difficulty doesn't have to be current. You can imagine them just as you are, the close one, in certain clothes, time in their life, time in your life, which evokes that difficulty. And lastly, to our right, we're going to imagine in front of us someone we're kind of indifferent towards. And it's going to be challenging to recall someone because often those we have indifference towards, we don't think about. the cashier in the checkout line, someone at a gas station we frequent, often people we work with are good characters to bring in here. Obviously, we're close with some people we work with, but just someone you're indifferent towards. It doesn't mean you dislike them. You just kind of don't have too much of a preference either way. There's not a lot of warmth, and there's not really a lot of distaste, or you don't have any difficulties with them. Just take a moment to invite that kind of person here. You can always swap these people out. I recommend to stick with them for the meditation, but if something's really not working, you can swap them out. And really, these three figures are representative of the three kinds of relationships in our life. Other beings are going to fit into one of these relationships. They're either going to be people we feel fond towards and like, people we dislike, or people we're indifferent towards. Obviously, most of the world is in that third category. Not that we're totally indifferent, right? We might be a caring person and care about their well-being, but generally we have more indifference towards them than the one we're fond of. That's the point. And I just want you to start reflecting on your relationship to these three, kind of moving between them. Again, you can imagine them more as a visual image in the mind's eye, or if you just want to feel them in the room, that's also fine. You don't have to visualize them necessarily. The idea is they're represented here in the space with you in some way, enough that it evokes that feeling again. So here we're working with developing an equanimity, which does not see some as higher and others as lower. Just notice what you feel towards these three figures. You can kind of move between them. You have that hierarchy there. And I just want to point out, you're not a bad person for having that hierarchy. We all have these hierarchies, and this is the whole reason we do these kinds of mind training practices. We're training the mind in equanimity. If we had it already, we wouldn't need to do this. Just notice those differences, and then you can start to ask yourself questions, open questions. Why do I feel those differences? Some of the answers you might get back are more obvious. This such and such did this to me, such and such did this. This is the reason why I like them or dislike them. I just want you to notice that. The key here is not in demonizing ourselves. It's just recognizing our biases, basically. We need to first recognize the bias in order to work with it. Especially this is rich with the indifferent persons, because we can see we're indifferent towards them because we don't have much of a relationship with them, but it doesn't mean they're any less worthy than the figure we're close to or the figure we dislike. We're also starting to see how we view the world from our side, right? Generally, within our worldview, we view ourselves as the most important, and therefore others are going to be in relation to that importance. Someone who treats us well is going to be more important and precious. And again, it doesn't mean we also don't deserve to be treated well, right? So we have to be careful with the logic here. What we're trying to see is that from our side comes the bias. The bias actually has nothing to do with the people themselves. So we can start to reflect on this. So this is a contemplation. This is a reflection. You have to actively imagine, actively, critically think here. And as you do that, you might notice some equanimity opening up on the feeling level. The undesirable one or the dislikable one might not seem as dislikable. Same with the person who's indifferent. And of course, you're still preserving fondness towards the one you're close to, but you might also start to see the value of the other two. Why? Because they value their life. They value their happiness. So I want you to reflect on that for a moment. Does the person who we're indifferent towards, do they value their happiness less than the person we're fond of? And to reinforce this, we can also imagine these three different situations that are causing them joy, causing them to feel love, connection. Usually when it comes to someone we have a dislike towards, it's usually someone close to us in some kind of a way. And we can also remember times where maybe they weren't so dislikable. We didn't have such a strong reaction towards them. We might even be able to remember times we were with them where actually they were pleasant. And if that's not possible, you can imagine them in those spaces, in those places with their loved ones, with people they enjoy. So if they were completely dislikable, no one would enjoy them. And that's just not true with anybody. Again, this isn't to say they might have some issues, right? We all know that. This isn't to say they do the right thing all the time. This isn't to say they don't make mistakes or shouldn't face justice. It's just saying they are a valuable person either way. Underneath, they're valuable. The person we feel indifference towards is valuable, just like the one we're close to. Just play with this for a moment in your own way. Notice what shifts for you emotionally. Equanimity is all about evoking a new way we see each other in the world. See if you can evoke that, even if it's just a little bit. And this is challenging, so just be kind with yourself as well. This is a practice meant to be repeated many, many, many times. If you're not having too much shifting, it's okay. It takes time. And I recommend kind of dropping the critical reflection every so often and just coming back to rest in the body and feeling world. Sometimes we don't notice a shift because we keep thinking. And here actually thinking is needed. This is a what we call an analytical meditation. So it includes thinking on purpose, not random thinking or activating a certain line of critical thinking. But drop that every so often. Maybe now is a good time. Just rest back in the feeling world and body, and you actually might notice a shift has taken place. So for me, I actually only critically think for a few moments, 30 seconds, and then I just come to rest. Rest back in the body, rest back in awareness, or rest with what has been shifted due to the practice. Just do this another few moments before moving on to boundless love. Shifting into the second boundless state, boundless love, boundless loving kindness. We can keep these three figures the same. And due to our equanimity practice, perhaps there's a little bit more openness towards all of the figures here. With that, we just wish them well. We wish them ease. We wish them health. Of course, you have loving kindness practices where you can repeat that silently in your mind. May you be well, may you be at ease, may you be healthy. I personally just like to evoke a sense of warmth as a feeling and then send it their way. So there's this kind of light shining out my heart towards them. Whatever way works for you, if you need some words to evoke that, or you just want to sit in the heart and send that. The whole idea here is wishing others well, especially those we would tend not to. But you can pull from the one that's easier. So if it's easier with the person close to you, you can now ask them to sit by your side and you send love and kindness together, the other two. To use the practice wisely. It's all about evoking states of mind and sharing them. Remember to rest in love. You can share it from there. Now shifting into the third boundless state of boundless compassion. Compassion, as we've been exploring it, is all about dealing with life, the ups and downs of life, the dissatisfaction, pain ourselves and others inevitably go through, and opening the heart towards that. So this is a little different than love, because now there's an implicit aspiration for ourselves and others to be free from suffering, be free from pain. I particularly find this useful with the equanimity practice, because usually the one we have dislike for is someone who's in pain. They didn't do something we disliked because they were happy. I can think of someone who cuts me off in traffic. They're in a rush, they're stressed, they're trying to get ahead. Not saying that's good behavior, but they're suffering, and that's the reason they did it. So we can open up to wishing them free from suffering. The Dalai Lama, who we're going to work with in our reading this week, it says there's a lot of benefit to this, because of course we benefit as well. If someone can be free from their pain, perhaps they might not cut us off the next time, right? So there is a benefit for us as well. Maybe not literally, but just sending that to these three figures, the one you're close to, the one you're different towards, and the one you're having more dislike towards. Just wishing them free from pain, dissatisfaction. And here we can be creative. The more we know about our own pain, the more we know about the pain of others. This is why we spent the first 3 weeks working with our own pain. So our pain is not unique. Maybe the form it takes can be unique to us, but it's not unique. So from this understanding of your pain that hopefully you've been cultivating these last 3 weeks at least, allow that to evoke a sense of others' experience, what they go through, the stresses of their life. Some of them might be in common, but definitely the roots of them are in common. We all have fear. We all have expectations and hopes. A lot of us don't like change so much, even though change is inevitable. And again, employ some activation through critical thinking or imagination, and then rest. Rest back in the body and awareness. Here, maybe you can also start to invoke a lot of the self-compassion we've been practicing and basically taking away the barrier between self-compassion and compassion for other. As I said, the more we're open to our own life, the more we're going to be open to others, the more we're going to notice it. It doesn't mean another's pain becomes yours. It just means you're attuned to it. It's easy to arouse compassion for them, wishing them freedom from that pain. And lastly, shifting focus to the fourth boundless state of boundless joy. This is all about taking joy in others' well-being. It's very similar to loving kindness, but it has another flavor, something you can experience. And here, of course, you can start with the person you're fond of and just taking joy in the last moment you can remember where they experienced some well-being. See if you can remember that moment, whether that was with you or not. Just simply feel joy for them for having that moment. Feel joy towards them. Feel joy in them. And a little goes a long way. It doesn't have to be some big ecstatic joy, just a little bit of a flavor of, oh, that's so nice. Or sometimes for me, the words come, how amazing, or good for them. Right? So you can even evoke words if you want. It's helpful. The feeling is a sense of upliftedness, a sense of an inner smile. And shifting to either the figure we're more indifferent towards or the figure we have dislike towards. And these can be more challenging. Sometimes we have to imagine a scenario that we maybe haven't actually witnessed ourselves. For instance, imagining the difficult one with their family or with a loved one, can take joy in that. Or knowing a little bit about the life of the one we're indifferent towards, same thing. For instance, if the one I'm feeling more indifference towards is someone I frequent at a shop or market, just imagine the relief for them when they get to go home after work. We all know how that feels. We can take joy in that for them. Or maybe when they're showing up to work and they're really fresh and they had a good night of sleep and they're ready to kind of work for that day. They don't necessarily dislike work. So we can use our imagination here and take joy in them in these different ways. And remembering, use our imagination and critical thinking and then let it be for a moment and come back to the body and feeling world as needed. And slowly and gently, just letting the entire practice come to rest. Coming to rest in our bodies, our breath, our awareness. If you'd like, you can thank these three figures, even though you imagine them. Maybe you have a sense of gratitude for them helping you to develop the four boundless states. They also, in turn, have gratitude for all your practice. And just taking joy one last time in our practice. These kinds of practices, depending on what's arising for us in a given session, they're not necessarily easy. Not like things should be easy, but they're not necessarily easy. And so we can just take joy in the effort we put, no matter how it went, just taking joy. I showed up and tried this. Take joy in that. Okay. Thanks so much for your practice.